Okay, so on the last video, we opened a window with SDL2 and C. This video, we are going to make the window so it can close. So the program runs as long as we want it to run, but it will close when we give it the standard way to close it for whatever system you're on, when you press the X or tell it to close or even press escape. But before we do that, I would like to go revisit the last video's code real quick. We didn't really have a unified way of shutting it down. We were using exit in one place, and so I'd like to kind of clean this up a bit first. So we have the problem where we want to shut the code. We have our game cleanup, and we want it to shut down. And then where we're calling it here, where this function has failed, we're using exit 1. And then over here, where it succeeded, we're just returning 0. So this is nice, but that means everywhere that we tell the code to exit, we need to have some kind of return or exit. So I kind of want to fix this up so that the cleanup code, the game cleanup code, is actually exiting, and we're passing in whether it succeeded or failed. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the cleanup thing, and we're going to add a C macro that is exit success or exit failure. And so that is just going to be, we're going to pass it as an int, and we're going to call it exit status. And we need to change that down here in the actual function. Exit status. And we're going to use that here with exit status. Yeah. So that's normally what you do. You call exit with exit success or exit failure. And so we're just going to pass that into the cleanup thing and let it do its thing. So now we have to actually, when we call game cleanup, we need to pass in that second new parameter, which is going to be, as I said, the preprocessor macro exit success, the failure on this one. Sorry, why did I do that? So this is going to be exit failure, and down here we are going to have exit success. So this is kind of the reason why we're using this macro is because we don't know what kind of you could be on Windows or Mac or Linux, and this is going to kind of do the thing that needs to be done on that system. So generally, returning 0 means good, but we don't know if what it means on your system. So I'm just going to use this macro that kind of sorts it out for your system. So since we have a failure here, we're calling failure. Since we have a success here, we're doing the success. And I think that's everything. Let's check. Let's compile it. And this is, again, this is just the old code from the last video, but I just wanted to fix this one part first. And see if that runs. Okay, that looks like it's all good. So in this video, if you're just joining from this video and you didn't watch the last video, you can grab the code that we're using here. It's in my GitHub under my name, Jeremiah Cheatham, and it's going to be SDL2 examples. And we're going to be just working inside of here. You can just grab the code from the last video here if you want to use it. Since we're just carrying on, we're going to ignore all of these, but we're going to be using these resources in later videos. So if you need to grab that, you can clone that, and we're working inside of the C SDL directory of that. That was in the previous video. So this video, we have this problem where we need to know when the program has been asked to be shut down. So we need to know the event. This is a event, specifically an SDL quit event. So here we can, this is a function to pull events, but we're looking for a specific event. If we look down here, it is SDL quit, which is the, if we go back here real quick. So this function is, this is a SDL, and we're pulling the events. Basically, we're going to get a queue of all the events that happened, and it's a queue of events, but each event is actually a union. So each event is going to have a different kind of struct that's holding all the information inside of it. So we're going to have kind of this thing where we're checking the type, and then we're checking what it is. So this is the function that's getting us all the events, and then we're going to loop through the events, each one of them, and we're going to check what type it is. So the very first easiest one is, are we going to check, here's the kind of the event union thing, and the very top thing is just a type, and we're going to be looking for this quit, and it's going to be this kind of struct, but we don't really need to know any of that. We just need to know, is the type SDL quit. That's all we really need to know. So the way that we're going to do that is, we aren't going to be just opening the window and then closing it, opening it for 5 seconds and closing it. We're going to open it indefinitely, and then we're going to close it when we get that event. Let me close this real quick. So we need this kind of in a loop. So in our main function, we have the game struct. We are initializing, and this part right here where we're clearing the render and presenting the render and delaying, and then cleaning up when we're done. Not the cleanup part, but these three right here, we actually want these inside of a loop. We're just going to make an infinite loop. We're going to do a while loop. So while, let's say something like true, and we'll open that up, and I'm just going to bring all these inside of this loop here. Okay. Okay. So this loop now is going to run indefinitely. That means this program is never going to close. And also, it's the loop is going to pause for 5 seconds each version of the loop. And that's a very slow loop. We actually want this loop to happen more than once a second. We want it to happen, say, 30 or 60 times a second. And the really basic, simple way to say we'll approximate 60 times a second in just a very basic code like this is, we could just pause it. Instead of pausing it for 5,000 milliseconds, which is 5 seconds, we could pause it for 16 milliseconds. And 16 milliseconds ends up being about 60 frames a second. It's not exactly, and there is how long it takes your code to actually execute. But for this very simple program, it's good enough. When you're making a game later on, you might actually start calculating how long your delay needs to be after all of the code has run in your loop. But for this, we're going to change it to 16. That means this loop is going to be rolling 60 times a second, basically, close to 60 times a second, indefinitely. Now the problem is this will never close now. So what we need to do is we need to check the events while we're doing this. So we'll create the SDL event, and then we're going to populate it with SDL pull event. And we'll just call it event. And now we need to actually populate this. We need to pull this event. So this is we're gonna do a while on this. This is gonna basically go through all the events that occurred since the last loop. So we are going to pass this in as the address of the event, because we are changing that event inside of this function. So pull in the event, and we'll do that. So Now we're gonna run a switch statement on the type of the event that comes back. So remember, the event is a union that has all these different structs in it, but one of the members of this union is or one of the possible is just the type. So for quit, we just check to see if the event is of type quit, and that's the easiest thing to do. So we'll run this as a switch statement instead of using ifs. Or we're going to switch on the event type. Okay, so our first case will just be, did SDL quit? Is that the type? Okay, and where I'm getting this from is, so this is pulling the events. Here's what the actual event looks like, and we're looking for this guy right here, type. And this is one of the types that it could be. This will be the value of the event type. If that specific event was a quit event, when we check the type of it, it's going to return as an SDL quit. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So that's the very first thing that we want to check. And then if it is a quit, we just want to clean the game up and close. Oops, thought I pressed tab, but I guess I didn't. So we're gonna do the game clean up, and no error has occurred here. We're just asking it to shut down, so this will be an exit success. Exit success. Let's see here. And we are in a case, we are in a switch statement, so we do need breaks on these. And we're just going to put a default just to be good. Default. And we're just going to break that as well. Okay. So So it's just basically it's grabbing all the events that have happened in this loop. So when this delay happens, this loop comes up to a new loop. It gets all the events, and then it starts going through the events, and it starts checking all the event types. And if any of the event types were of quit, it's going to quit, and this break will never even be hit because this program is going to shut down then. But if that never happens, it's going to finish off with all the events that have happened in the, until there's no events left. And then it's going to clear the render, present the render, do the delay, and then it's going to do it all again. So from here, when it's done checking all the events, into here, if you then have pressed to close the window, then there'll be a new event that is going to be checked when it comes back up here again. It'll be, oh, this time you did ask it to quit. So let's give this a go and see if we haven't made any mistakes. And again, I've changed this delay to 16. If you have it at 5, that means the event is only going to be checked every 5 seconds. This event is going to be checked every 16 milliseconds now, which is 60 times a second this event's going to be checked. And I think I should have already done this, but let's change the name of this file that we're working on from the open window to a close window, so that if you ever need to go back and look at the code from the last file we were doing, you can have the 2 different versions. So before we get too far into this, we've already added the loop, but let's change this. Let's oops, I don't want to be doing this. So let's check this text file right here, this source file, and let's keep working on it as a new version. So we'll just copy this. If you're in VS Code or something, you could just right click on it, copy it, and paste it, and give it a new name. or something like that. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to turn it into 02, and how about close window.c? Yeah. Okay. Let me do it. And okay, so I'm actually working in the close window now. So we'll compile the close window. And we want to call it. Okay, so if we've done everything right, we should be able to tell the window to close. Now I don't have, I'm not using a floating tile window manager, so if you have it, you're gonna either be over here or over here, you're gonna be telling it to close. For me, I'm using a tiling window manager, so I'm using a keyboard shortcut, but it doesn't really matter. You're just telling the window to close. So whatever system you're on, the way that you normally tell a window to close. And it closed. Now that's pretty good, but I actually like it to close if we press escape too, just as another option. So we have to actually do a different check for that. So we check to see if the window was asked to be closed, and now it's being closed. So now let's check to see if a key press was pressed and if that key was escape. So we're just going to kind of extend this now. So we check to see if it was an SDL quit event over here, SDL quit event. But now let's see if an like a key down event happened, which is up here, SDL key down. So let's do that. Let's add another case in here. Key down. This means like an event happened. It doesn't mean that the key is pressed down. It means it went from up to down. Like an event happened that said you just pressed it now. So it's not checking what state it's in. It's checking did an event happen from it being up to being down. That's to check to see if it's already down. We'll cover in a different video. That's a different kind of setup. So if a key was pressed, we have this further problem of we need to check which key was pressed. We don't want any key to be pressed. We want specifically the escape key. So we're going to run another switch statement on this. And we're going to specifically drill down into the key and the key code. Okay. So we have the event and we have a type, but now we're not going to do that. We're going to drill down a bit tighter. So with this key press, where is it? Key press, this is key. So we're going to look at event key and look at, and this is a keyboard event. So it's going to be event key, and then it's going to be a key sim. So event key, key sim, and then inside of this key sim, where's that guy? Right here. If we look into those, over here, there's a bunch of key codes, scan codes, and those are over here. So this is all going to be a member of, this union's going to have a member as a struct inside of it. It's a member of a member of a member. So we're going to drill all the way down, and then we can find escape key, and it's going to be SDL scan code escape or SDL.k escape. Okay. So the way this is going to look is we've already seen that we're drilling down to just the type, but now we are going to go, instead we're going down to a specific key. So we already know we're in a key down situation. So we're going to go event dot key sim, and then the scan code. Okay, so what this is doing is saying, hey, we want to run a switch statement. Since we already know it's a key down, we're going to go all the way down and say what was the actual scan code. Let's start switching on the actual scan code that was. And we already know that it was called SDL scan code escape. So we can do that. I don't know why that's... I feel like that can be back here. Yeah. Huh. It just indented it strangely for me. And we are going SDL scan code escape. All right. And now if we have scan code escape, we're going to do the exact same thing, which we're going to go the game cleanup. And we're pressing the game. And we are telling it what type, and it's still a good exit, so no error has happened here. And we also need to break out of this, because anytime we're doing this kind of switch statements, everything that we do needs to have a kind of break. And we also want to do a default for this guy, which is going to be break. And that should be works. So now we're checking on that, and we can check on whether not just any key was pressed, but specifically was this pressed, was the escape pressed. And I may have written something wrong here. Lots of spelling errors. Not good for programming. Oh, wow. Okay. Doing good. Doing good. Okay. So this time I am going to press the escape key right now. There we go. So that is what it will looks like. This is handling events. You can do all kinds of other stuff in here, but specifically if you just want to handle if an event just occurred, a key was just pressed. This isn't going to be when you're moving game objects around. When you want something to scroll around like a sprite or a player or something, you want to actually check the state of a key. Is the key still down? So that won't be used here. We'll see that later, but just if you want to know a key, if you want to know whether a key was pressed, this works right here. So you can just expand this to add another case for a different key down, between the default and after here. You could just add more and more keys, or you can work through the whole system of different events, the path of different event types happening. You kind of have to read through the documentation. But it's going to be kind of like, did a quit happen and was a key press? That's going to be the most common thing, but you can do other stuff. You can make your own events. Anyway, that's it for this video. That is how to close your window. So now the window can be open as long as you want. It's running at about 60 times a second. And if you press whatever your system is to close a window, or if you press escape, the window gets closed. And thank you for watching.